this thing.
Brown car guy. A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So, first anniversary of the BCG BMW E30, the 1989 325i SE coupe, or two-door if you prefer, in black. 1 year on. Today, in fact, is when I got this car. Wowzers, what a year it's been. What an absolute joy and delight it's been to own this car. I mean, you know, there is absolutely no question that this car has absolutely lived up to every single expectation that I had of the car. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again in this video, that if I had to see out the rest of my life driving only one car and this was that car, I would not be unhappy, because this one basically ticks all the boxes. I mean, it does the whole practical day-to-day driving thing. You can do that, it's fine. I'm driving around now. But yet, it's such a joy to drive. It's communicative, it's interactive, the steering talks to you, the car handles nicely, it feels nicely, the performance is more than adequate, the engine sounds great, the delivery is fantastic, the torque is just when you want it, you can heel and toe in this thing. It's absolutely awesome. So yeah, I mean, it does not disappoint in any sense whatsoever. The feeling of the car is special. Now, the reason I bought this car, as I've said before, is I owned one in the 90s, and because of financial issues at the time, I had to get rid of the car, and I owned, I think, that one for about a couple of years, and I always felt that that wasn't enough. I'd loved that car so much, I wanted to own it a bit longer. So this was like a continuation of that. But you start to think, well, you know, nearly 22, 23 years on from that car, you know, is it just rose-tinted spectacles? Is it just thinking back, you know, and thinking, oh, I was so good, but it's not going to be as good? No, it's as good today as it was back then. It's exactly as I remember, and if not better. And this is the better part of it. It's really interesting, because the better part of it is the reaction that it now gets. So back then in the 90s, young Asian kid, well, I wasn't, okay, maybe not that young, but youngest Asian kid in a black leather jacket and all the rest of it, driving around London in a BMW, something of a cliche, let's be honest. And you wouldn't always get the best reaction when you turned up in that car, or when people saw you driving around in it. You know, people had certain stereotypes and stuff like that of a BMW driver, and you know, at that time, that was the BMW, right? Fast forward 20-25 years now, and it's a completely different reaction this car gets. Now, people love it. People smile, they wave, they want to talk to you about it, they want to take pictures of it. I've had so many people when I've been driving around, and people then send me snaps of they've taken the car whilst I've driven around, and then, well, how do they find me? Because I have my logos on the well, I have my URL, or the handle, if you like, on the side windows and on the back window. So, which has been actually really, really good, because I've managed to get followers from driving this car around. But it feels special. People treat it differently. It makes people smile. It makes people happy. It makes me happy to make other people happy, and it makes me happy to drive the car. So in that sense, it's absolutely been brilliant. And the other thing, of course, is you get to feel special in that you can then take it to car shows. So you take it to car events, classic car meets, stuff like that, and you turn up and you put your car on display, and all of a sudden people will come up and they'll talk to you about it, and they'll say, oh, it says brown car guy on it, but the car's not brown. And you go, no, I'm brown, the car's black. Great conversation starter. But there you go. So it's just a special thing to have, and in that sense, it's been not only a joy to drive, but also a joy just to own, and a real privilege to take it out and to let people see it, and for it to be seen by people. It's just fantastic. So what have I done in the car? I've done about, I'm not 100% sure, because the odometer stopped working for a while, but by my estimates, from what I can, so according to the odometer, I've done just over 4,000 miles. I would say I probably lost about 600-700 miles while it wasn't working. It's a guesstimate, so I reckon I did about 5,000 miles in that year. You know, the car now has 120,659 right now miles on the car. Feels completely fresh. Mechanically, the car has been absolutely excellent. Now you're asking me, well, what did you spend on the car during that time? Well, aside from obviously the road tax, which was about £300, insurance, which is, you know, what it is, the cost of running it, I don't really recall or perhaps I don't want to recall. I mean, let's be honest, it's not cheap. But apart from the fact that I did get a service and I got the cam belt changed out of a precaution, which I later realized, although I couldn't find any documentation to prove that it had been done, so I got it changed as a precaution, and then later I realized that that wasn't actually necessary, because the cam belt that they took out was actually in pretty good condition, so clearly that had been done. But anyway, it's good to get these things done. Cam belt, fuel pump, all the rest of it. So that had been done, and since then it's been performing fine, hasn't needed anything. Now the only thing was that at one point I had a problem with the front left wheel, where the wheel nearly came off on the M40. Fortunately managed to get it up to the project shop who've done the work on the car so far. Shout out to those guys, absolutely brilliant team up there, and I managed to get it to them, and then so they had the car for a while. And unfortunately I had to then change the hub and also get new wheels and stuff like that, so that was a little bit of an issue, and whilst the car was there, I then of course had to get the odometer fixed as well. Sending that off, I do know that sending that off to a specialist and getting that fixed was about £400, and also there was a big delay. I think it took nearly 2 months to get that back because of the international chip shortage. Believe it or not, even in the 1989 car, it uses chips, and I became a victim of the chip shortage, because that's why, so the car was out of action late summer last year, because I was just waiting for the instrument panel to come back. So that was one of the things. Aside from that, not much else. Little bits and pieces, you know, little things I have to do and stuff like that. I think there will obviously, there are big bills, and I think that there will be a big bill or two coming in this following year as well. But it's a classic car. It's inevitable, you know. It's just part of it. And you got to work. You got to balance that against the joy and the pleasure that it gives you and other people to drive a vehicle like this, compared to, you know, how much you're inevitably going to have to spend to keep it on the road and to keep running it. And I probably use this car more than most people would use a car of this vintage. I'm guessing that most people will take the car out maybe once or twice a month, or just to shows and stuff like that. In my case, I use the car about well, at least once a week for sure, but most likely 2 or 3 times a week is I would say, on average, I would say 2 or 3 times a week is when I use the car. So I am properly putting the car through its paces. Not huge mileages, I don't use it to commute, but it is effectively my daily driver. I don't actually commute because I work from home, so you know, it's being used, which is a good thing, because surely that's what these cars are about. Now, what about going forward? So again, I mean when I got this car a year ago, I was like, wow, time to rekindle that relationship with this car, time to fulfill the story. And by the way, the car I had before was also a 325i SE. It was a 1988. It was in dark blue, not in black, and it was basically the same as this, but it didn't have the leather seats that this one has, didn't have the M Sport steering wheel that this one has, and it had the regular alloy wheels, not the BBS alloys that exist on this car. Otherwise they were identical, and that's why it just reminds me so much of that car. So what about the future? Well, you know, I'd love to run it and run it and run it, but the problem is that obviously, as I've documented a lot, especially recently, I live in a zone, you know, just on this side of the North Circular, which is just outside of the current ULEZ zone. But in August this year, on August 29th of this year, 2023, the mayor plans to expand the ULEZ zone to cover pretty much the whole of London, in some cases right up to the M25. So that would then of course impact me. My car is obviously not ULEZ compliant, and it cannot be ULEZ compliant. It's 1989 straight 6 BMW. It's not going to be ULEZ compliant, no chance. So then it's going to be a thing that will, I mean, and again, it's not, I'm still fingers crossed that hopefully we can delay or get this thing cancelled, because there's no justification. That's different videos. Go and check out browncarguy.com, everything you need to know about ULEZ, and you'll see why I'm saying that. But anyway, if it doesn't happen, happy days, you know. But if it does happen, I've really got to think about it, because just doing what I'm doing now, I will have to pay £12.50 every time I take this car out. I'll have to pay £12.50, and you know, you think, well, that's not a lot of money, but when you start to add it up, you think about the fact that if I use it twice a week, £12.50, what's that? We're talking about £25 a week, £25 a week, 4 weeks in a month, £100. If I do it more than that, 120, 130, 150, it adds up so quickly. And on top of everything else that you're paying for a car like that, you know, people say, well, you're already paying a lot of money for it. Clearly, I've just said that I am, it's true, but you get to a point where, you know, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, you're just like, I can't do this, you know. And this is the trouble I have with pay per mile schemes and stuff like that, is that when you've already paid road tax, you've already paid your insurance, you paid for the servicing, you paid, that's done. So now you can use your car. But if you're being psychologically pummeled every time you take your car out thinking, oh, now this is costing me money, this is costing me money, then really you start to think that, well, you know, do I need to do that? Do I need to do it? Can I save that money? You know, then it becomes an issue. So therefore, you know, I'll have to really think about what I should do. And you know what? I invite your opinions. Let me know what you think I should do. Yeah, you've seen the video. If you haven't, check it out. There's a full blog again on browncarguy.com, and there's also a playlist on my YouTube channel of just videos of this car. You know, have a look at the car, see what you think of it. Think about what this car means to somebody like me, and tell me what you think I should do. But don't say move out of London, because I can't really afford to do that either. Thanks so much for watching, and here's to, God willing, another year of motoring in the BCG BMW E30.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.